All right, so welcome everyone again. My name is Maria Becerra. I'm the lead of this AI Expedition community. And for those of you who are not aware of AI Expedition or are new to this session, this is a community-driven initiative that was founded to make learning about the world of AI exciting, but also accessible for everyone, especially those with non-technical background. Our mission here is to democratize knowledge in the field of AI and build a community where everyone can grow together, learn, interact, and also get inspired by others who share the same passion for technology. A couple of housekeeping items before we move on. Please use the comment section. This is not intended to be a lecture from university. This is intended to be a community where you're learning from Stefania. And then please feel free to use the comments and add your questions into the chat, but also use the reaction feature to express if you like something, if you love something, etc. If you have a pressing question or a pressing issue, raise your hand and I'll try to address it here with all my multitasking environment. And lastly, and most importantly, take notes. I find that when I take notes, I am more engaged in the conversation. And this can also serve a double purpose because then you can post them on LinkedIn, build your brand, and raise awareness of this important topic as well. But enough about me. Let's talk about the topic of today, responsible AI and ethical impact assessment by UNESCO. I'm very fortunate that I met Steph a few months ago and that she volunteered to join us tonight. She has a very interesting background. First of all, she is the director of AI at a company called Sardo, and she embarked on a journey with an university degree in foreign languages. So first of all, in my opinion, that's like a very interesting twist, like coming from foreign languages and now working in AI. It's very interesting. But she recognized the need for inclusive communication when language barriers existed. And as the first to introduce an AI subject to her university in Italy, focused on AI and automatic translation, her path unfolded. Subsequently, she pursued higher education, obtaining a master's and a PhD in computer science, programming, and NLP in France. With a passion for leveraging technology to enhance communication, she played a pivotal role in assisting numerous enterprises across diverse sectors: education, manufacturing, biotech, and even venturing into video games by integrating NLP solutions into their products. Eager to share her insights, she also became a mentor for women, holding positions as a Google Women Tech Maker, Women in AI, and Women in Games Ambassador. In 2024, she became the lead of Google Women Tech Makers Montreal. She was appointed as an AI expert for UNESCO Women for Ethical AI, allowing her to apply further her expertise in fostering responsible AI and supporting ethical approaches in AI systems creation. Okay, you heard a lot, but now you have to listen from Stefania. Stefania, again, thank you so much for being here tonight, for sharing your wisdom with us. And I'm gonna hand it over to you so that you can walk us through your presentation today.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody being here today. Thank you for the presentation. Now I feel very, very cool. Okay. So welcome to this journey about ethical guidelines and framework and responsible AI. And what we are going to see today is basically why they are important and especially how they are impacted our life, especially when they are not respected, and how we can give some solutions. So I don't have to represent myself, but the only thing that you can notice, I really love cats. So these are my two beautiful cats. Apart from this, what I want to say is that you can raise your hand whenever you want. You can ask questions. I can try to also read the chat. Hopefully I will be able, but in case, Maria, if there are any questions, please just tell me and I will try to reply at my best. Okay, so Let's start without ethics. So with ethics. So ethics evolves with the human being. We can say that during the centuries, the concept of ethics changed. So if we think about the classical philosophers, ethics was more related to the virtue, to how we can be at our best in what we want to do. Then we moved to the Middle Age. There was a shift towards the religion. So, yeah, you had to be at your best, but at the same time, you had to make sure that your vision was included inside the religion vision. And then in the in the modern period, we had a lot of people telling different things. Uh, as you can see from the images, we have Descartes, Spinoza, Kant. So Descartes was like, okay, we have freedom, we can do whatever we want. We are not obliged to listen to religion, so we only need to make sure that we can master at our best the knowledge, and then that we can be ourselves. Spinoza was more on the, yes, it's very interesting that you can do whatever you want, but it's not true. What is ethical is basically make sure that we can serve the society. So our knowledge is important, but it's nothing we can if we cannot reuse it inside the society. And then there was Kant that basically said, okay, no matter what you're going to do, it's not a problem, I don't care. But he was interested in the motivation. So if the motivation are good, and we can say that it's very hard to define what is good, then we are in an ethical space. Then at some point during the 21st centuries, we started to see a shift in what is ethics. Was less abstract. So, for example, Hans Jonas was more on the ethics applied to how we can live and make sure that we can live in a good world today, but also we can give a good word to other people in the future. So basically, he said that act in a such way that the effect of your action are compatible with the permanence of an authentically human life on earth. So make sure that no matter what you do, pay attention to what you're doing, not only for yourself, but also for the others. So we can say that today ethics is really linked to the specific activities of human beings. We talk about deontology, for example. It was interesting to see in the 90s that basically there was a principle that is called the precautionary principle that is very, very interesting, and we should think about that every day, that no matter what is the knowledge that we have, the scientific knowledge that we have, or the scientific certainty that we can have, we should always make sure that what we are doing is something that will not hurt people in the future. So the fact that we cannot explain entirely something, it doesn't mean that we can do whatever we want. In that case, it was for the environment, but today can be applied also for AI, especially when we use tools. It's a way to say that basically, no matter what is the tool that you're using, you need to think twice what are the impact, not only for your daily use, but also for people that who can maybe they cannot use those tools, or the environmental impact that we can have derived by those tools. And we will talk about that later. So if we think about ethics today, for sure we think about artificial intelligence. We see more and more regulation. In Europe, we have the AI Act, USA starting to think about the AI Bill of Rights. China has temporary regulations. If we have time, maybe we can talk also about that, because they basically shape those regulations in a temporary way, and they are a little different from the vision of the rest of the world, especially for some points. And then we have Canada. So Canada is proposing the bill C-27, is not active yet, but we can see that there are changes. For example, I'm from Montreal. We know that there is a law, the law 25 is not a law directly labeled as an artificial intelligence law, but it is related more on the data. And for sure, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk also about data. So in some way has some impact on what we do. Okay, so we can say at the end, from what we have seen right now, that ethics really evolves with the human being. It's something that is not easy to identify. We cannot define always a standard. It will change. It will change with the human beings. But there are three things that I try to use as a motto for myself. No matter what is the action that you are doing, you can ask yourself three questions. What should I do in some case? What should I have done in the past? And are there any limits to my actions? In this way, we can try, however, to make sure that we are at least following an ethical path at our best. So before this, are there any questions? I think no. No, I don't see any question. Okay, that's great. So what might happen if we use data without being responsible or ethical? So I have a question for you. How many among you, so you can raise your hand, I think, know Cambridge Analytica? If I don't know, that's one. Okay, I see one. Perfect. Okay, so yeah, I will explain a little what is Cambridge Analytica. So what we're going to see, the source is the UK Information Commissioner Office. I try my best to make sure not to change what it has written from the people who study this. So basically, I will just do this way so you can already see. So basically, if you remember, if you were already using social networks, in particular Facebook in the, I think, 2015, you probably experimented the explosion of quizzes on Facebook to, I don't know, identify yourself with your best city in the world, or I don't know, there were a lot of quizzes and apps. At some point, there was one app in particular that was collecting as a form of quiz some information from people. So this app was done as a sort of research project by a company that was called Cambridge Analytica. And it was something we can say right now, we can definitely say that was something dangerous, but at the time we didn't have that kind of thought. But they were basically, through questions, they were collecting information about each person and their friends. And when we talk about information, we talk about their photo, their location. If you remember, there was a time where we basically were pushed to say where we were, to tag our places and so on. Photographs, videos, so faces of not only the person, but also family and friends. Post, meta information, so when they were posting, which were their habits and so on. Of course, the localization, so the current city. Email, friend list, definitely a lot of data. And then there was this quiz where they were able at some point to define a sort of a psychological profile for the people. So we can say that already was kind of weird, but then there were a major problem when this data has been reused for different reasons than just using the app. First of all, because people were not aware at the time. And second, because basically that data was used to make sure that people with similar profiles or the same people were able to be recommended some content online that was reinforcing their ideas or was trying to change ideas on political stuff. So after some years, it was discovered that basically USA election, but also Brexit in Europe was influenced by all this work behind Cambridge Analytica. You can imagine, like, you are on your social media. It's something new, so you are not very used to what is called social media, and you think that what you see is basically the reality. At some point, you are influenced, and then you can, with this influence, you can also act in a different way or reinforce maybe some information that were not true at the time. And we are talking about a lot of people that were impacted. So we're not talking about 100 people. We are talking, as you might see, this is directly from Facebook. A lot of people, especially, of course, in the United States, but also in other countries. So really, it was a really like a global event. And still, we don't know about the data, if it was completely canceled or not. Is still under discussion. So yeah, this is one example what might go wrong. But if we talk about things that are modern, deepfakes, how many of you knows about deepfakes? I think more. Okay, perfect. So usually I do a video here, but it was a little hard to handle it. So I will try, hopefully it will work, to do this. Can you see another page?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we will do a test. I don't know the replies. We will do it together. So do you think, and you can write in the chat, do you think that this image is AI generated or it is real? I will try to pick the majority. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, maybe I know why. Okay, AI, perfect. Fake. I will just, let's see. This is a synthetic image produced by AI. Let's do another one. Hopefully it will be a little harder. This one. AI, real. My chat is going. Okay, cannot follow. Real with a filter. Yes, it might be. Okay, let's try if it is real. Real. Okay, so we can see. Okay, you already know how to distinguish. It's okay. After this call, I will post maybe something on LinkedIn, and we will try to do the difficult the difficult version with link. But yeah, I already submitted this in other conferences, and it was not so easy. Then I also not. It depends on the image that we have. But yeah, it was interesting, however, to see replies such as it might be real, but with a filter. That's interesting because probably you know that there are some applications that will take your photo and then you can like change the environment and the background to be more professional. And it was discovered that, for example, for women, the body was like thinner than the reality. So also the filters and how we can change the perception of reality as its place in the ethical way of AI. We are the best classifying machines. Yes. Okay. Wait. When? So yeah, deepfakes, however, now you probably know have a lot of consequences. Not only like identity theft, for sure. Disinformation, especially one of the biggest issue was the pornography, because of course they can take your image and then they can do whatever they want. Sometimes they use models that are not very good, but sometimes they use models that can be acceptable. especially for humans when they are distracted or it's during night or other stuff. So they are not so focused on what they are watching. Okay, so the big issue is that bias feeds bias, unfortunately. So if we think about bias, it's basically a prejudice in favor or against, most of the time is against, one thing, person or group. So we don't have a fair procedure for that person or for that group. So we try to contrast bias being fair. So if we think about fairness in the terms of UNESCO, is an inclusive approach to ensuring that the benefits of AI technologies are available and accessible to all. But it's really important to stress the part of inclusive approach. This means that not only we have majority and minority of people that can use AI, but also they are represented inside those tools. And that's where we are going to talk. So there was this report that was released last month by UNESCO in collaboration with Women for Ethical AI. I was inside the people who gave a little contribution on this work. And basically, it's a report about how artificial intelligence and gender work together, or in some cases, they really don't work together. So if we talk about gaps, this is one of the biggest problems when we talk about everything that is AI and data. So we are not only talking about tools, but we are talking about life of people that are trying to enter or use, or they want to change career for AI. We see a lot of gender gap, no matter what is the level, for example, in the education. If it is graduates, if we see for awards, we see also for AI and big data course enrollment. So the more we go into the future of the person, the more we see this gap. And it's something that is logical, because if you see a barrier and you keep going seeing this barrier, probably you start to think that it's not something that is for you. And unfortunately, we see the same also in the workplace. So no matter what is the domain, if it is AI, data science, tech role in general, we have gender gaps. And it's quite interesting to see, especially software developers, where the gap is about 44%. I can tell you that when I was working in the game industry and I was observing the developer world, it was very hard to find a woman developing games. So it's something that really, if you are in the industry, you really live that reality. And it is something that is not only we can say in people that are working not in management, but it's all over the levels. So director position, VP and C-suite, senior leadership, and we can see it's also in different industries: STEM, tech, information, media. AI startup is a very, very big challenge, because there are capitals that are not given in the same way for startups that are led by women. And we unfortunately see also in the government. It's something that is generalized. So no matter if we look at Europe, if we look at Asia, if we look also outside Europe, but however near in UK, we see that the gender gap is still present, and however it's fairly high. And as you might see, when we think about creators of patents, they would like to file their patent, are 13 times less likely to do it. So there was a calculation that has been done. We should wait until 2080 to see half of the patented invention done by women and then by men. I think I will not be there at the time. I hope that this will be solved sooner. So, in this world where we have a gender gap, for sure, when we use technologies, when we try to create new AI stuff, or when we want to just improve our workplace with AI, we will miss a representation of women. This means also that the AI technology that we are going to use will lack this part of society. And of course, the bias that we see in the AI is not only in the AI, is really a reflection of the biases that we see in our society. And we can really see in the whole AI life cycle that we miss some parts. And that's why we keep going with this world full of biases. Now, the bias are a huge problem, especially when we have institutions such as the Berkeley Health Center for Equity, Gender and Leadership that try to track 133 software and AI solution, and they notice that 44% of these AI systems have gender bias, and also 25% have both gender and racial bias. So it's like, it's a lot. And at the same time, we really see that we have an impact on the final users and how they can perceive the world. Let's explore some example that really happened. So if we think about using AI in the workplace for professional services, for example, hiring people or advertising jobs, we are not only looking at like startup that are trying to create products for that. Also big company face that kind of challenges. So Amazon was hiring AI tool was shown to be biased against female candidates. Other tool had the same issue. We saw advertising on social media that were biased. Basically, men were able to see advertising for jobs as executive 5 more times than women. And also we have some data that is missing when we try to match profiles, which again can create a lot of issue. I think there was a study that was done by the United Nations that were investigating how women perceive themselves in the world of tech. And they say that basically considering what they saw in terms of gaps, so what they perceive in terms of how they can go higher in their career, I think it was 22% of women in tech were considering to leave the workplace because there were not other women basically in their workplace. So they were considering to really change their careers because they didn't find a fit in their workplace. So if we think about, they did a calculation and basically they said that in 12 years, half of the position that you see from the gender gaps today are led by women, where basically should be eliminated, because there will be no women that would like to go into that role or into that company. So it's a huge impact that we can have. Generative AI, yeah, the trend of the moment. So I don't know how many languages you speak, but since I speak Italian and French, sometimes I translate Italian and French in English. And no matter what is the pronouns that I have, if I'm talking about a she or a her, it will not be translated automatically in the right way. It will be automatically translated in the male counterpart. So we talk about a male default model, basically. And we have also other example. So NLP, natural language processing application that were not able to recognize hers as a pronoun, or voice assistant that were likely, basically they were able to understand better American male voices and not other type of voice, which is something that for me is like, I feel concerned, not only in general for every language, but I also think about in Italy, we have not only Italian, but we have a lot of dialect, and they will not be represented at all. So on the long term, this can have as a contribution to lose those dialects that are basically the history of the people that live in Italy. There was a chatbot from Microsoft that was trained on internet and social media, and at some point it was removed because basically there was a weird association with feminism as a cult and a cancer, and then stated that the gender equality was equal to feminism. So something that probably you don't want to see in a world that is unbiased. There are many, many other examples. If we think about, for example, chatbot, so basically the International Research Center on Artificial Intelligence and UNESCO did a study about that. They compared the different chatbots, in particular GPT-2, ChatGPT, and Llama 2, had similar challenges. So there were gender names that were associated with particular words. So, for example, female name were associated with a traditional role in home, family, and children, and male names again, executive, business, salary, and career. In task generation, in text generation task, Llama 2, 20% of the time created text that was showing sexism, and it was basically, again, it's not the tool itself that is bad, but it is trying to replicate what it has seen. This is something that I didn't say before, but I'm showing this data just because I want to show you reality. I don't think that AI is bad. The problem is that we have data that has not been checked, and AI is just a tool. So it's just replicating pattern that I've seen before. So, and of course, some people use these tools as something that is, we can say, it's just a tool. So they will think about if they see weird replies, they would say, yeah, okay, but I mean, it's just a tool. In some cases, people will use these without double checking. And you can probably figure out that we can basically use data that is biased to create other data that is biased. It's a cycle that will never end. Unfortunately, also healthcare and education, so similar challenges. And you can think about, for example, detection of skin cancer. What it might go wrong if you don't have the right data that can represent any type of any skin type. It will go wrong. It will not predict what it should predict, or it will predict things that don't exist. In education, there were other examples where basically students were graded automatically, and there was a systematically the male counterpart was had always higher notes than the other. There were cases where machine learning system has been used with cameras to try to understand if the student was focusing during the the lesson or not, creating also some mental health troubles in students because they were constantly on camera. And of course, there was no transparency on how those models were working. So at some point, they had some issue at school and they were not able to act because there was no way to understand how those sentiments seen in the face of the students were calculated in order to say that the student was focusing or not during the lesson. And the same applies. So we talk about generative AI in text, but we have issue also with image. We have images that should not be used for general public and for general task. We had problematic label. We have a misrepresentation of women and misrepresentation of Black girls, and so on. So, and again, these tools can be used in our everyday life. We can be reused in social networks and so on, and we can still feed the bias machine. One thing that I would like also to cite is something about the facial recognition systems. So I know that sometimes our phone, they will not work when we try just to unblock the phone with our faces, but it's not the only problem that we might have. So we talk about the lack of diversity in dataset. This means that sometimes when we use facial recognition system, in this case, 35% of the time, darker skinned women are misclassified. There are also cases where the consequences goes more and more in depth. So you think about not being recognized in your building, so you cannot enter, or you cannot enter your workplace because your facial recognition app is not working as it should. Faces that have been misrecognized, and so police was called. There were false arrests, or people that were not able to have the information they needed or access to vote system just because they were not recognized. So the list is long. If you read the report, these are just some examples, but there are more and more examples out there. So I hope you are not depressed. Honestly, when I was reading first time all this data, it had some impact, but the good news is that we have some solutions. So first of all, congratulations, you are here. So this means that you have more knowledge on how things can go wrong. The other good news is that responsible AI is something that can be done by every person in the world. Once you use AI, you are responsible. That's great. So you can have a voice whenever something it seems weird for you. So one of the solution is basically trying to make sure that when design an AI solution, an AI project, anything that has AI on it is human rights centered through AI life cycle. So from the very beginning to the very end, from the final users to the people that are creating the tool to people that who are just hearing about the tool, trying to make sure that they are all invited to the table. Transparency. You should always be able to understand how a tool is done, how it works, even if you don't know every single detail, but at least what are the limitations, what are the risks, how, for example, the company that is giving to you the tool are mitigating those risks. And try to be curious, try to test yourself, the tool itself. Like, don't just read the manifesto of responsible AI, just try yourself to see what are the limits out there. Whenever you are doing a project, of course, trying to involve a diverse team, which will lead to diverse solution and diverse data and diverse idea. You have some tools that you can use to measure if your data set or your tool is unfair. So here, for example, there is one from IBM. Google has one. If you code in Python, there are also some packages that you can use to analyze your data set. Basically, you more and more you can try to make sure that even if you don't have an extensive knowledge about how to check for ethical data set, you can reuse these tools to at least have some double check from other people that have built these tools, and they can calculate for you how it works. Even if, again, since it's ethics and since it's human approach, I'm pretty sure that you can ask yourself some questions to double check on your end. There are frameworks out there. Of course, there is the UNESCO one, is the one that I know the most, but there are other frameworks, and it's interesting to see the differences. It's interesting to see the similarity and the different points of view. So you have for Europe the high-level expert group on AI, you have the ethical aligned design, you have the OECD AI principle. So the OECD website has an entire folder of, and it's always updated, of projects that can help you measuring and use metrics for responsible AI. So it's a very interesting website. And there are also some norms out there that have been building. The other thing that I will suggest is always to try to have, especially if we think about gender, feminist and gender transformative approach. So again, make sure that AI is people-centered. We talk about human rights, but also people-centered. We have equal participation. Think about minority people, and think about also not only the minority group, but also people that have not the same, they are not so lucky as we are to discuss about those challenges or to use those tools. You can try to see if you can involve them in some way. This is one of the biggest goals of UNESCO. Mitigation of harm. So make sure that you know the limits of, you should know the limits of the tool. Make sure that, however, you have a set of rules that you can double check and see, especially what you can do next if anything bad is happening. So there is an approach that is called the twin track approach. And it's interesting, especially when we think about our role as a citizens. You should be able with your presence to make sure that when we talk about, for example, where to put money, which company to support, and so on, to make sure that the actions and the investments are also done towards the minority groups. This is a way for you as a citizens to make sure that your money and your time is used for a good cause. And also that the action, the tool, the AI and the gender challenge is not only related to the tool, but it becomes something that is global. So it is included in the institutional systems. For example, I think about people with children. See how your school is trying to implement AI. Policies, procedures, practices. This means also you want to use AI in your workplace. Okay, how you can be the ambassador for responsible AI and ethical AI. How you can bring these kind of documents to let people know about some of the weird things that can happen when we use AI. recommendation on the ethics of AI is something that has been done by UNESCO exactly for that. We talk about 193 member states. And basically the idea of this framework was to make sure that we have values, principles, and policies for AI so that everybody can use it, maximize the benefits, and especially mitigate the risk. So since I want also to have some questions, I will not go through the ethical impact assessment. The only thing that I can say is that you will find it on the internet. I think I have also a QR code. It's a methodology. I will just jump directly on what it looks like. It's basically an assessment where you should reply to some questions with your inside your workplace, within your team, about different aspects of how to be ethical while using AI. And it goes from the security to how you can invite people to your team and make sure that they understand how you can use AI as a tool. And then you can assess also the level of maturity of the different challenges that this ethical impact assessment will offer to you. It's an extensive tool that you can use. It's a very good one, and it's good because you can use it from the design part of the project until the very end. So it's something you can use before, during, and after the project has ended. And I think I will finish here. Yes. To finish, that's the only thing that I will say. Be always responsible. You have, you are part of this. You use AI, and you have a voice, and so raise your voice if there is any concern. Think about human rights and protect your data. Don't do like people with Cambridge Analytica. That's it. And I don't have my photo here, but it was there, I promise.
Thank you so much, Steph. That was an amazing, very enlightening presentation. Very eye-opening, at least for me. So thank you for that. At this point, I'm going to ask if there's anyone here in the audience that has any questions about today's presentation, any concerns, anything that you want to share here with the rest of us. I see a lot of thank yous here, but I did have a question, actually. I wrote, I think that at some point, like if we wanted to have bias-free data, we would have to rewrite the whole history of humanity. Like, what can we do to prevent these issues to happen? And especially in a world where innovation goes very, very fast, but then all the red tape or yes, all the steps that need to be taken to get to the approval of a regulation, policies, or guidelines take much longer. Like, what's your perspective on that, Steph?
So it's a very interesting question, very hard to reply to that. I will say for sure we always have historical bias. So it's something that we need to face. Probably what it will happen is that at some point, since we cannot like rewrite everything, and again, ethics is something that change, we have tools that will try to make sure that what we consider bias can be corrected as we use those tools. So we will not change history, especially because it's not something that we should do, but we can act and make sure that what we are doing and the data that we are using at least has this reminder that we should not create other bias. Because for sure, before there was a lot of ignorance. So right now we can correct.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And yes, Jaime, I agree with you. Great presentation, but very disappointing figures and a lot of work ahead of us. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, we should look in a positive way in the sense that right now we can see that there were some challenges, so we are able to go into the right direction.
Kate has a very interesting question. One of the benefits of Gen AI is that it can provide value from reading unstructured data. How would you develop metrics for measuring bias in this setting?
Okay, so and also the person who asked this. So it's true that the great value is that, of course, can create structure where it's not there. How we can develop metrics? For example, one thing that you can do is that you can make sure that the generated text can be tracked. Like if you have documents that have been summarized, are you able to track back the original data? And you can build like sort of internal audit to make sure that what is the threshold in terms of errors. Are every person that is involved in the project agree in the fact that this is the right way to structure that unstructured data? Because sometimes it's something that I've done recently. When you put together a group of people, it was like you think that they will all agree, and at some point you see, no, I disagree. I would like to see this. Why this part was not present in what we are observing right now? So you can establish a sort of history of what you have done to make sure that the data was at your best unbiased, and also the decision, why you took some decision instead of other, and how you correct also the output of your model. And then there are also the stuff that we can do.
Great question. Thank you, Kate, for that. Any other questions or comments here today?
Hello, guys. I have a concern that I want to share. In my career, I've seen that time to market is very important, and executives and people who put money into companies value a lot. So I really understand that in order to have better AI, we need to overcome those biases, and that might mean to start new social media, new feeds to get that data and information from. But the thing is that most companies don't have the time to start from scratch. So that's why we're using the current information and the current data we have right now, which is super wrong. The internet is super wrong because it's not curated by anyone. So what I don't know. It's a question that might not have a real answer, but how can what can we do as regular citizens to combat these situations, to make OpenAI and Microsoft and those huge companies really understand that it's not about being the first to market, it's about being the best for the market, something like that.
That's a huge problem. I honestly struggle about that because I was able to, like, I knew those companies before they were knew by everybody else in the general public. And sometimes, like, I saw the shift from it is a research matter to it's a business product. Every time that we have the business product, we have profit. And so we need to accelerate everything. And sometimes we don't really think about what it might go wrong as a normal citizen, or for example as people that are working and you see those tools. What you can do is really make sure that you can, since you have already this vision, you can protect people that still are more in a passive way of using those tools and think that I don't know, that chatbot is my friend. I can ask whatever I want. I can give any information and so on. Try to educate, for example, those kind of people that for now they don't realize what is happening, and also again trying to raise your voice when you see that, however, those tools that you are using or you are obliged to use, I don't know, have some issues. don't buy subscription if you disagree with those tools. Don't give them money, I will say. Spend your money in a way that you can support your idea about responsible AI. For sure, we will see always from now on ongoing the battle among big companies that will try to say, yeah, my model is better than yours. But for sure, what we can do again is if we don't use a lot those tools, are they valuable? Are they profitable? That's the question that we should ask. So we have at
Yeah.
least the pure money.
I never thought about that side, so I'm canceling my ChatGPT subscription right now.
ChatGPT, OpenAI,
Yeah, over.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, I think that we as user or potential decision makers in our companies can do what you're saying, Steph, testing really, really well these tools and having our recommendation. Even if we are not the final decision makers, we at least have our voice. And also as business analysts, product managers, or project managers, I feel that our role helps influence, even if it's a little bit, with our recommendation, whether an AI project should continue or not. So we need to take advantage of this position that we have and be very responsible about the topic and ensure that we are also looking at it from an ethical perspective.
Yeah, and again, let's try not to think about the fact that there are bad tools or there are bad people behind those tools. Sometimes there is only ignorance. Like honestly, if you're not a part of minority and you you have never experienced some challenges, sometimes it's also easy not to think about those minorities and those challenges. So a way to raise your voice is also to create information about what is happening and give them the opportunity to be visible, especially.
For sure. Jaime, I don't know if that also answers your questions, but Seth, he had a question about how can we contribute to governance and controls in AI besides the ethical approach?
I will say when you use tools, if you're at home or if you're in your workplace, make sure that you track when you are using it, why you are using it, anything that you are doing with that tool. Make sure that you can do your own governance, even if it is not like the official data governance that you can find in, I don't know, in framework at Google or other stuff. You can at least create your own protocols, and then you can also share your protocols with other, so that your action will be shareable and visible to other people that maybe they don't even know how to start this. And you can build a little group that will be bigger and bigger.
Sounds good. Sounds like a good idea for each of us here. Thank you for sharing that. All right, I think we are over time, and I know that you don't need any other certificate except you are super qualified and have received so many diplomas, but here is another one for your library of appreciation. Thank you so much again for the time, for the commitment that you put into this presentation. We really, really appreciate it, and we're very thankful for all your time and effort here tonight. In terms of next steps, please mark your calendar because I didn't update this part. Next session is January, one second. Oh, January 29, actually. I updated the day, not the month. But yes, next session is January 29th. And this time is going to be from 7 to 8:30 p.m. because we're going to have 15 to 20 minutes of networking. I think these spaces are very valuable, but it's very important that we also share our insights and comments with the community, and then we can take each other's perspectives to our families, our friends, our colleagues, etc. Also, follow us on LinkedIn if you haven't done so that you can keep track of all our upcoming events. join our communities on Discord, and subscribe to our monthly newsletter. I'm gonna share here actually the link tree so that you can access all the different sections of AI Expedition. You will find next live session, updates on LinkedIn, webinars on YouTube, those ones that you haven't been able to attend, community on Discord, and our newsletters. Thank you to all our volunteers who are working behind the scenes. And thank you again to all of you for taking the time of your busy agendas to learn a little bit more about responsible AI and be very mindful about this topic in our day-to-day. That was everything for today. So thank you one more time. I'll see you in the next session.